Fox News Alert, this is coverage of Bill Cosby's sentencing. I'm Julie Banderas in New York. A judge in Pennsylvania just sentencing Bill Cosby to 3 to 10 years in prison for a 2004 sexual assault. I'm joined now by Rick Leventhal, who is outside the courtroom with the very latest. 3 to 10 years, not as much as he could have served, but nonetheless, Bill Cosby is going to prison, Rick.
He is indeed, Julie. No less than 3 years, no more than 10 years. The judge ruling that Bill Cosby must cover the cost of the prosecution, $25,000, apparently over the first 12 months, not to contact the family of the alleged victim, Andrea Constand, or Andrea Constand, and is subject to sex offender program. So Bill Cosby, 81, and according to his defense team, legally blind, will be going to state prison. And it's our understanding that he will be first taken to the Montgomery County Jail in Lower Providence Township to await transport to the State Correctional Institute Phoenix, which is about 12 miles north of Philadelphia, where Bill Cosby had an estate, where Bill Cosby took Andrea Constand and where he gave her drugs and then sexually assaulted her, the basis of the aggravated indecent assault charges. So now Bill Cosby has been sentenced 3 to 10 years in state prison. That means that he will most likely, we assume pretty shortly, be taken out a back door of this courthouse in handcuffs, put in a police transport, and taken to that county jail to be transferred to a state prison facility where he will be evaluated and then presumably spend at least the next 3 years of his life, Julie.
And so let's talk appeals process. As you know, of course, his lawyers are going to appeal this. By sentencing him to 3 to 10 years, does that hurt his appeals process? Does it make it harder for his defense to try to appeal, considering a minimum of 3 years is not nearly as much as he could have served?
Well, first of all, the judge merged the 3 charges that he was convicted of into one. So he could have faced 10 years on each count. They merged them, so the max he could face was 10. So basically the judge said 3 to 10, touching on that maximum sentence that he could have received based on the merging of the charges. One of the big questions was, would the judge allow him free on bail while he considered any appeals that might be filed? And the DA, Kevin Steele, said because you deemed him a sexually violent predator, he doesn't qualify for house arrest. So that may have played into the judge's decision. We're just not sure about that. But I'll tell you this, Bill Cosby could have spoken in court today in his own defense. He could have said something to the judge about remorse for what he had done. He didn't do that, and there was talk beforehand that he probably wouldn't, because if he says he has remorse, that wouldn't support an appeal if he claims innocence. We can tell you that when Bill Cosby in court was informed of the responsibilities he would have as a sex offender, he was told that the victims in this case would be notified. Bill Cosby asked if he had to notify them and was told no, and Cosby, according to our producer in the courtroom, replied, good. So that's being handled by the state. Bill Cosby is not notifying his offenders. He's been told you can't contact, his victims, and there's one confirmed victim here, but more than 60 women claim that Bill Cosby assaulted them, and then several of them were in the courtroom, including former supermodel Janice Dickinson. She was here to hear that sentence being read inside the courtroom here in Norristown in Montgomery County Courthouse. So again, Bill Cosby sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. We expect to hear from the DA at a news conference, and probably some of these women who've been spending much of this time in the courtroom who claim Bill Cosby did the same thing to them. Perhaps even the victim, Andrea Constand, will speak. We're not sure about that, but we'll be waiting to find out, Julie.
All right, Rick Leventhal, stand by. I want to bring in Judge Andrew Napolitano. He joins me here in the studio. He just mentioned the DA, Steele. He had asked the judge to sentence Cosby to 5 to 10 years. The Cosby defense had asked for house arrest. They also had hoped for less time because he is over 80 years old and he is legally blind. The judge did not have sympathy there. However, he did get a lot less time than he could have been sentenced.
Well, he could have been sentenced to 30 years,
sure,
which would be odd for a person 82 years old.
It's been done before.
Yes, it has been done before. And this judge, who really showed no sympathy whatsoever during the trial and may have exposed the trial to, and did expose the trial to, appealable issues, about which more later if you want to go there, has actually given a rather lenient sentence. So lenient that I'm almost wouldn't be surprised if Cosby's people only file an appeal of the guilty verdict rather than of the sentence. But if they do file an appeal of the sentence. Expect the state to cross appeal, which could raise the sentence up. Right now, between 3 and 10 means he must serve 80% of 3, so 2 3/4 years in jail. Thereafter, it's up to prison officials, based upon his health, his demeanor, his work in the prison, his attitude in the prison, whether and if he can leave before the 10.
You know, a lot of people thought that this guy got off easy. I mean, if he serves or if he is sentenced to a minimum of 3, you know he's not going to serve 3 years in prison. He'll get off on good behavior. I'm sure Bill Cosby is not going to be a menace behind bars.
Well, the good behavior reduction wouldn't kick in until he serves 2 years and 9 months. So he's going, the minimum he could serve is
2
very,
years,
very
9
close
months.
to 3. Correct.
Now, let's just talk about the fact that the 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault, that these 3 charges were combined into 1 charge. So you're talking 10 years per charge. Many would argue, why combine them into 3? Now, you have one woman accuser who says this literally destroyed her life. She's
Yes.
the only one who is being taken into account, her story into this particular case. However, the judge allowed the jurors to consider the 60 other women who, in fact, accused Bill Cosby of the same. So it's very confusing when you have one accuser, one court case, but there are 60 other accusers that have nothing to do with this particular case that the jurors had to consider when coming up with a verdict.
That is, listen, as reprehensible as Bill Cosby's behavior has been,
right,
and as he was convicted in this case, his rights were severely violated by permitting the events that were not charged in the indictment to come before the jury. In most states, not Pennsylvania, those events, called prior bad acts, to show a pattern of behavior, can only come into play at the time of sentencing. They are not revealed to the jury. The jury only hears the allegations of the charge in the indictment, which in this case was just Andrea Constant, not the other 59 women.
All right. Bill Cosby sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. We should be seeing him being escorted out of this courthouse in handcuffs just moments from now. Please stay tuned to Fox.